Welcome to Policing TV, where I'm delighted to be joined by Superintendent Phil Baker, who is the Western Area Commander in Lincolnshire Police, as his day job, if you like, and also the chair of the Cultural Working Group within Lincolnshire Police. Phil, I've got those titles right, I hope.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah, that'll do.
Excellent, very good indeed. We're here to have a conversation about the work on culture and culture change in Lincolnshire. Let's start by me asking you to tell us something about the work of the work that you do as chair and your working group itself.
Yeah, so I got asked if I would chair the cultural working group that reports into our culture board. So culture, as you'll know, is extremely important for any organisation, but particularly for the police service. If the work that we're not doing is not backed by the culture of the organisation, then ultimately anything we try and do potentially can get derailed. So I picked up the chair of the culture board, and within that brought together a number of practitioners across the force. And our aim is to translate the culture stock take into a series of actions, to formulate that action plan, and then to track them against timescales to ensure that we're able to tell the organisation, to tell the people that are really important, so the officers on the ground and the staff that are working extremely hard, what it is we're trying to do to make the culture of the organisation, the look and feel exactly how they are saying that they want it to be. That in itself, it is a challenge, but it's a very rewarding challenge for me, because if we get the culture right, then the service that we're going to provide to the members, So that if we get that challenge right, then the service that we will provide to the people of Lincolnshire will absolutely be the one that we want to, and the best service that we can. And that's ultimately what's driving our culture. So the work is, as I've said, it is distilled down into an action plan. Within that action plan, we've taken all of the stock take, those key areas that individuals have said to us are important to them, or they will report as being non-negative. So the process is that the cultural stock take takes place. Within that, they report it's either positive, and when asked an open question, it's either neutral or negative. The neutral and negatives are combined to give you that overall score that says that potentially, so if we take around here managing performance is, over the past 3 years, we know that has been the highest score around non-positive. So that's a clear indication to me, chairing the cultural working group, that people want us to deal with performance, to support those that may be struggling, but to make sure that we're doing that correctly. So, for instance, that's been translated into an action within the cultural working group, where we will give additional training to our first line leadership and second line leadership around how best to have difficult conversations with individuals, and how to then translate that into some key deliverables that people feel supported if they may be struggling to do the role. And it's not about sanction and blame. So that's how some of the work that we do links in. Another part of the work that we've really landed now, and continue to land, because culture is a moving feast, is around reward and recognition. Very clearly, the stock take was telling us that, okay, we're very good at some of the formal work, so a certificate of recognition, but on a day-to-day basis, how are those that are coming to work feeling that they're being recognised by their line management? And a lot of people were telling us that just needs to be potentially a pat on the back. It just needs to be a thank you. So we've implemented what we call the GIVE model. It's a very simple model. It's give recognition. It's be genuine. Try and make it as immediate as possible. It's make sure that people feel valued as a result of it, and it can be given to everybody, up to the line manager, down below, or to your peers either side of you, or even across department. And so that's another piece of work, and an example of how the cultural working group is taking the cultural stock take, translating it into actions that officers and staff out on the ground can actually start to feel and see an impact of the information that they've given us around the culture that they want within Lincolnshire Police.
Let me come back to the recognition point in a moment or two, but I just want to acknowledge for the moment that your working group, the working group that you chair, reports into a strategy culture group that I believe is chaired by ACC Chris Davison. And the reason, correct me if I'm wrong, but that the working group was set up rather a year and a half or so ago, was in order to take some of the implementation on from the strategy group and to bring it further into the organization. So the strategy group deals with the strategy, the working group deals with the implementation. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So the cultural board, and I was originally sat on that board as well. What we were finding is actually without focus and without capability and positioning it out into the force much wider, they've been able to get traction on some of the work that we wanted to do and to get the doers to do the doing, which is all important around the culture. Without that as a model, it's very difficult to break through and break down and start to ensure that the message is understood and that people feel part of the culture, that they also feel that they can influence the culture and the work that the force does to drive that culture forward. So as you've said, you're quite right, that the board is there around setting the strategy. We then translate that into the working actions from the cultural stock take. And then we have a number of people out there who are tasked with the actions to go out and make sure that we've got key deliverables that's starting to change and improve the culture within Lincolnshire.
So let's come back now to recognition. A key part of feeling that the job that you're doing, whether as a police officer, member of police staff, as a police special, as a volunteer, just the act of recognition doesn't need to be a certificate you've suggested, but just that pat on the back or good collar or good job or thank you, or is that something that now is improving within Lincolnshire, do you feel?
Yeah, absolutely. And when we introduced the model, as I said, it is a very, very simple model. It's not complex, but it's just a reminder. It's a daily reminder of who has come into work today, who has gone and worked. And it doesn't necessarily need to be that large scale investigation, but that simple, do you know what, today you made a bit of a difference. You impacted upon a victim, or you supported your colleague, or whether you're working in a support function across the force, the work that you've done today has absolutely allowed us to achieve the force strategy. And I said the whole aim of it was we wrestled with this for quite a while across the force of how do we bring in a model that people could understand, that people could recognise, that people could get behind, whether you're sat as an office-based function or whether you're out on the street on a daily basis or a sergeant out at the sharp end on response. What can we bring into the force that's not complex? It's really simple. Just gets into people's psyche on a daily basis of don't forget, just give that simple thank you, that simple recognition. And again, key for me is that doesn't just have to come from line management, but what about your peers? What about the person you may be crewed up with? What about the person you're working alongside day in, day out that's just helped you carry out a difficult task or something that you're really struggling with? And that in itself says a lot about the culture. If you're prepared to just reward each other with a simple thank you, that means that hopefully you're coming to work and the place feels a much better place.
Do you feel that your working group actually is having the beneficial impact that is expected of it? And what's the evidence out there that it is having a positive impact?
I believe it is, because some of the evidence has been spoken about. So as soon as people are talking about culture, that means people start to understand it better. They start to influence it and want to influence the culture on the team. And being able to work through the cultural advocates, that allows us to do that. So the working group allows us to task out the cultural advocates who are trained to go and have these conversations, because culture can flex and move, and a simple thing can derail the culture if you're not constantly talking about it and making sure it's how you want it to be. It's not just a simple question of write a report, write a strategy, state what your aims and objectives are and leave it at that. You've constantly got to ensure that whatever you're doing has a focus on and recognises that culture is key to being able to enable you to achieve any strategy and stay on top of it. So I certainly feel as the chair that it's making a difference. It's not been an easy ride by any stretch of the imagination, because ultimately this is about trying to take an organisation and change people's perceptions, mindset that they're telling us about as part of the cultural stock take. That in itself does not happen quickly, but But when it does start to move and you start to see it, and whilst you can't touch it, you can feel it, and there's a real sense and feeling around the force that the culture is starting to move. People are being heard, and that work does take place when they do come forward and they do give us their views.
So heading in the right direction, but still work to do. Your working group not being asked to stand down just yet. What are the main challenges then that you think that you have ahead of you in the coming months and beyond? Are there particular areas that you would like to see good progress in?
So challenges, I would say opportunities. So we're at the fourth iteration now of the cultural stock take. It's run every year, so this will be the fourth year that Lincolnshire has invested its time and its effort towards getting the culture right, which I think is absolutely the right thing to do.
That's taking soundings. That's taking soundings, is it, amongst your officers and staff and others?
Absolutely. So every year, repeating that cultural stock take to see exactly where we are, to see are we improving. And we know from the key metrics within that cultural stock take that every year, those key questions, there are more positives coming out than the previous year. So we know we're heading in the right direction. So we're repeating that, and currently our stock take is open now. So we will then be taking those results, but we're taking a slightly step change this time around as well to ensure a greater buy-in across the force. So we will be asking each area, so each SLT across the force, so that'd be the crime command, local policing, support services command, and some other key commands, to work together with ourselves through the working group to produce their own cultural action plan. So that we've then got real ownership and real buy-in from everybody, and that the greater you spread the load, the greater you'll get that buy-in for culture, and to make sure that, but also to make sure that it's bespoke. So this year has been the first year that we've been able to split out the results to give us a deeper dive into each command area, because culture will be different across different parts of the force. So absolutely, that means we can then make bespoke action plans and plan a route forward together. So that's where we're looking to take it. And as I said, this will be the fourth year that we will have run this cultural stock take. Everything is tracking in the right direction in terms of the positive outcomes that we're getting. And so fingers crossed we get that again, but also we can build on each year.
Well, Phil, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you and your working group for the work that you're doing, to wish you, your group, the officers, staff, volunteers and others within Lincolnshire Police all the very best for the journey that you're on. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and insights with Policing TV. And Superintendent Philip Baker, thank you once again.
Thank you. And if anybody's got any questions or like to contact me, I'll happily have a chat with them if in other forces they'd like to replicate the same.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.